Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. My name is Pratik and I'll be taking up the news today discussion for 9th, 10th and 11th of August. So as usual, let's start with the headlines. The first news is about Armenia-Azerbaijan peace agreement. Second news is about 100th anniversary of Kakori train action. The third news is about IIT Roorkee develops drug candidate to fight AMR or anti-microbial resistance. Fourth, rise in Asiatic lion population. Fifth, economic sanctions as a tool of US hegemony. Then we have certain quick updates as well. So the first news is about the recently held Armenia-Azerbaijan peace agreement. And of course, it lies within GS Paper 2, International Relations. And within this, we have effect of politics and policies of developed and developing countries and their impact on India. So within this, we need to understand a couple of things, especially when it comes to understanding the background. Okay, so we need to understand what exactly is the background, because things did not happen in vacuum. There were certain reasons behind them, and how have the basic peace agreement came into picture. Then we'll talk about some of the proposals within this. What are some of the proposals within this agreement? And then we'll talk about the impact on India. So these are the major topics that we need to understand from the mains perspective, and from the prelims perspective, we need to look into the map or the region of these two countries, especially given their regional importance. Okay. So let us start with the region itself, and then we'll talk about the exact background as well. So first, let's take a look at the region. And if you look at it, we have two countries, Armenia and Azerbaijan, which are surrounded in the Caucasus region. So this region is called as Caucasus region from Caspian Sea. This is Caspian Sea towards the east, and here we have Black Sea. So these region, South Russia, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan are part of what is known as Caucasus region, right? And here we have Azerbaijan, and in Azerbaijan, the majority population is Muslim. In fact, more than 97% population is Muslim, yet it is a secular country. And we have Armenia, which is dominated by people of Christian faith, right? Now, majority of time, these countries have been together, especially during the Soviet era. So in the Soviet era, which was from 1920s to 1991, Armenia and Azerbaijan were part of the same republic, right? So they had certain tensions within them, particularly because of regional issue or issues related to religion, and also because of this place called Nagorno-Karabakh region. So this place is something which is located in Azerbaijan, but it has the majority of the ethnic population from Armenia. Okay, and this is the major reason why Armenia and Azerbaijan have gone into war several times. And the most recent war that happened was in 2023, in which Azerbaijan was able to take this territory in total. So after this war, more than 1 lakh people of Armenian origin went back to Armenia, and this region is now completely occupied by Azerbaijan. But even after the 2023 conflict, the peace was still far from there. And now with the mediation of United States led by Donald Trump, they have now resolved their dispute. And now this is a very important development, that they have now achieved what is called diplomatic recognition. So as part of the deal, it has led to end of the armed conflict, and now they are establishing diplomatic relations. The second thing is that they are going to start with a trade corridor, right? And here the trade corridor will be in this region, which is called Nakhchivan. So Nakhchivan region is basically, you'll see that it is very much contiguous to Armenia, but it is part of Azerbaijan, right? And it is very important. And for this region to make it access to it, there's a transit corridor that is going to be set up. This is going to be the transit corridor, and this is known as to be called TRIP, TRIPP, which is a Trump route for international peace and prosperity. Okay. Interestingly, Donald Trump has mentioned, or he has reiterated that he has not insisted upon naming this transit agreement on his own name, but it has been insisted upon by the other partners or other heads of the states of Armenia and Azerbaijan. Anyway, so this first part of the agreement is that it is going to end the hostility. The second one is it going to establish this trade and transit route, which is to be based on Donald Trump's name. And this is the purpose of this is to make Azerbaijan access this region, which is called Nakhchivan. Now, Nakhchivan is a very important place because it is also the site for the organization of Turkic states. Right? So at this place, the organization of Turkic states were established. And you can also take and look into the countries which are part of organization of Turkic states, within which we have Turkey, we have Azerbaijan, then we have Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and I also think it also has Uzbekistan. So again, it has 5 members, and then it has certain dialogue partners as well. So the point is that within the state, this corridor is going to be developed, and this is to be developed by United States, and United States is going to start and develop the energy, technology, and economic collaboration. So this is the major part of the agreement, right? So we have already discussed the background. The background is basically because of this region, Nagorno-Karabakh, which is in Azerbaijan, but the majority community is of Armenian ethnicity. In 1980s, the region broke away with Armenia's support. Then in 1991, as USSR broke down because of the end of Cold War, there was independence of both these countries and conflict started. In 2023, a major conflict started where Azerbaijan regained full control, wherein more than 1 lakh Armenians fled to Armenia. So this is the background and the details about the pact. Now let's talk about what exactly or how exactly India's look into this matter. So going by the constitutional provision, we know we have Article 51, right? So Article 51 of India's constitution, which is part of DPSP. So Article 51 says that India supports peaceful resolution of treaty, right? And it follows rule of law in international relations, right? So here India has hailed this as an important achievement for dialogue and diplomacy, because you may have differences with respect to international actors, but it cannot be resolved on the basis of force and threat alone. It needs to be supported, or it needs to be resolved through dialogue and diplomacy. In fact, this was the policy that led to our Panchsheel Treaty or Panchsheel Agreement, right? So India has supported this. In fact, Prime Minister Modi in several international fora has also mentioned that this is not an era of war, okay? And then we need to also look into what is it going to have an implication on India's interest. So India's interest can be many. It can be geopolitical, it can be geostrategic, or geoeconomic. So again, majority of this we can look at it from these perspective. From the geoeconomic perspective, Azerbaijan is very important because it is part of the international north-south transport corridor. And it is going to link Russia via Central Asia. So this is going to enhance India's trade partnership. It is going to enhance India's diplomatic footprint and energy security, right? So again, it is a very important component that from the geo-economic perspective. From the geopolitical perspective, India enjoys excellent relation with Armenia. In fact, Armenia is the only country with which India has this treaty called Friendship and Cooperation Treaty of 1995. So this will further enhance India's political reach in the Central Asian and the Caucasus region, right? So this becomes very important from that perspective. Fine. So let's move into the next topic of the day, which is the 100th anniversary of Kakori train action. Now, interestingly, this is called Kakori train action and not Kakori conspiracy. In fact, many of you may have referred to Kakori train action as Kakori conspiracy or something like other than that. The thing is that UP government in 2021 changed the nomenclature of conspiracy to train action, Kakori train action, to denote this incident as a way of decolonizing our language. Okay, so if you look at it from the exam perspective or from the syllabus, it is of course part of general studies modern history, where we have to study about significant events. So Kakori train action is a very significant event, because it basically led to a very important development in the revolutionary action or revolutionary movement of the country. It has several personalities like Ashfaqullah Khan, like Chandrasekhar Azad. So all these personalities will be studying it here, and about issues in terms of ends versus means. So again, this topic can be utilized across the GS papers, right? So let's take a look at this. So as we know that this is the 100th anniversary. So the train action, this basic incident, Kakori train incident, it happened on August 9 of 1925. So this is the 100th anniversary. And UPSC often asks questions where there are significant anniversary or certain significant years of celebration. So what exactly happened during Kakori incident? But before this, we need to look into it from the larger perspective of Indian national movement. See, the majority trend during the Indian national movement were Gandhian in approach. Gandhian, and then there were non-Gandhian trends. Within non-Gandhian trends or within non-Gandhian movements, we have tribal revolt, we had peasant revolt, we also had revolts from the revolutionaries, right? So again, this would be part of your non-Gandhian trends. And the reason why the revolutionary movement started to manifest itself in the 1920s was because of several outside and inside or external and internal reason. When it comes to internal reasons, the number one reason was inspiration from our religious texts such as Bhagavad Gita, inspiration from personalities like Swami Vivekanand, right? And also there was a disillusionment from the Gandhian methods, because we know that Gandhian methods especially manifested itself in non-cooperation movement, but they did not achieve its mandate because of the methods adopted by the Britishers in suppressing the movement. So there were internal reasons, then there were external reasons in the form of Bolshevik revolution or the Russian Revolution. Also, there were other movements where the Irish people were resistance against the British colonialist, right? So there were a bunch of reasons which led to the rise of the revolutionary movement in India. But you know what? Revolutionary movement is not something that is that can be sustained just by ideology. It also requires a lot of capital. And this is where one of the important revolutionary organization, that is what known as HRA or Hindustan Republican Association, it started to undertake several actions to raise capital for the various activities, right? And Kakori train robbery or train accident was part of the same process. So here, what was the incident? The incident was robbery of number 8 down train, and that train was going from Shahjahanpur to Lucknow. right? So Kakori is a place near Lucknow, and it was essentially it was to fund anti-British revolutionary activities. According to various figures, the cash component, it was very much successful, by the way, and the cash was close to 8,000 rupees during that time, which was a very huge sum of money, right? Now, who are the key figures here? So you can see that there are a couple of figures: Ram Prasad Bismil, Ashfaqullah Khan, Chandrasekhar Azad, Rajendra Lahiri, right? So these were the prominent personalities who were associated with the Kakuri train action. Okay. Now, what was the response of the Britishers? So you must be knowing about the response that the Britishers undertook with the non-violent movement as well. So in the non-violent movement also, the Britishers' response was always very harsh. So it is very natural that in the violent methods also, the Britishers' response will be even harder. So in this case, it led to a swift crackdown and mass arrest and trial. And most of the times, because this was a very serious incident in their eyes, it led to execution of Ashfaqullah Khan, Ram Prasad Bismil, Roshan Singh's, Rajendra Lahiri, right? So it led to a lot of troubles for the Indian movement, and it was a huge setback for the revolutionary movement, right? So in this case, it was a setback, but the movement did not completely surrender. It survived, but in a weakened state. And the most important development with regard to Kakori incident was the formation of another organization called HSRA, which is Hindustani Socialist Republican Association. Now here we need to understand how HRA was different from HSRA. So here we'll study, whenever we need to understand two organizations, we'll study it in terms of when they were formed, who are the major personalities associated with both of these organizations, and what were their primary goals. So here HRA, which is Hindustan Republican Association, was formed in 1924, Kanpur. The leaders, as we had discussed, Bismil, Asfaqullah Khan, SN Bakshi, Sachindranath Sanyal, and Jogesh Chandra Chatterjee. So basically, what they did was they combined revolutionaries from Punjab and Bengal. Okay. So earlier, Punjab and Bengal and even Maharashtra, to a large extent, were the areas which were seeing a lot of revolutionary activities. Now, what HRA did was they consolidated all these revolutionary and gave them a single platform for jointness of action. Now, what were their principle or what were their objective? They wanted to establish a federal republic of the United States of India, which was basically along the lines of USA or United States of America. So here they wanted to have a political independence of all the important regions of the India, right? And it wanted adult suffrage, which means voting rights for everyone. Everyone, irrespective of their caste, creed, language, etc. So it was universal adult suffrage, right? So that was the major objectives, leaders, and the day of formation of HRA. Now, when it comes to HSRA, they were formed in 1928 at Firoz Shah Kotla ground in New Delhi. So here, the difference was majorly in terms of ideology. So here, the ideology even here was a nascent idea of socialism combined with some form of communism, right? But the point was that communism was yet at the stage of development. They did not understand exactly what was supposed to be done, right? So here they had an idea about socialism, but they were not completely convinced of the strategies that they needed to take in order to bring about the complete change of the nature of state from the socialism or communism. But under Bhagat Singh, but in particular, and Sukhdev, Shiv Verma, Chandrasekhar Azad, Vijay Kumar Sinha, it acquired a definite ideology. So here the ideology was communism inspired from the Soviet Union. And here the objective was not just political freedom or political independence, Here, the objectives of HSRA was essentially not just political freedom, independence, but economic freedom also, because it held that we don't want to replace our oppressors and just place some Indian elites above us, but we want to make sure that everyone has certain freedom with them. So essentially, if you look at it, the end goal of HSRA was very much similar to what Mahatma Gandhi mentioned in terms of his Swaraj. So for Gandhiji also, Swaraj meant not just political freedom, but it meant overall development in terms of economic and social development as well. So herein comes the major debate of end versus means, ends versus mean. And this can be part of your ethics question as well. So if you have a noble end, end means your end goal. So your end goal is freedom. Your means can be violent or non-violent. So if your end is freedom or if your end is noble, can you also adopt a noble end, or can you also adopt a non-noble or uh, or the means can be anything? So the point is that how should ends and means which should be looked along each other, or how should it be looked at each other? So as per Mahatma Gandhi, we need to have harmony of ends and means. So ends and means should be in harmony. But with regard to the revolutionaries, right, they wanted that you mean ends is important and means can be anything, right? So here you can, like, I will give you this, I want you to answer this question, that what should be your consideration. So if your end is noble, can your means take a backstage, or should your means also be good, and what could be the impact of that? Okay, fine. So if you look at the previous year questions, again, they have not asked anything directly from this topic of revolutionary terrorism, or sorry, revolutionary movement. But what they have asked is since the decade of 1920s, the national movement acquired various ideological strands. So you have to use this revolutionary ideologies as one of the examples, thereby expanded its social base. So social base also increased, especially by incorporating the youth population. Many voices had strengthened and enriched the nationalist movement during the Gandhian phase. So Gandhian phase started with the non-cooperation movement, or maybe you can say that it started from 1920s. But Gandhian movement was not the only movement that strengthened the nationalist movement. We also had movement led by the farmers groups. We also had movement from the labor communities, then also tribal uprisings, and also the revolutionary movement. So you can use this as an example of how different strands of movement also enriched the Gandhian movement. Next, the third topic, which is IIT Roorkee researchers develop drug candidate to fight antibiotic resistance. Now, if you look at it from GS paper 3, it is part of achievements of Indians in science and technology, indigenization of technology, etc. Now, why this is important and what is the significance of this? The larger theme here is about antimicrobial resistance. So we need to understand, first of all, what exactly is antimicrobial resistance and what are the causes of that, and because of antimicrobial resistance, what exactly is the impact? Now, once we understand this and understand the global and Indian response to curb antimicrobial resistance, then we can understand what now the Indian researchers have done to curb this. So let's first take a look into what exactly has taken place now. So antimicrobial resistance is essentially the resistance that the pathogens means those microorganism which causes disease, they face, or they face some sort of resistance with respect to various drugs that are given for their control. So when they exhibit some sort of control or when they exhibit some sort of resistance with regard to various drugs, then the phenomena is called antimicrobial resistance. So first we need to understand what is the problem here. So first here, this is the antibiotic, the drug which is given as a to for various problems with regard to diseases. And here there is beta lactamase. So beta lactamase is an enzyme which basically resist these drugs. So when you give some medicine like this, the the beta lactamase, what it does, it renders this drug as ineffective, and because of that it remains as it is, right? So this is the problems because of beta lactamase. So what IIT Roorkee has done is it has found out a new drug candidate which is called compound 3B. So this is a candidate which means that it is yet to be operationalized. It is still in the trial stage, but it has shown very significant development. Now the compound 3B, this is compound 3B. What exactly it is doing? So compound 3B is inhibiting this enzyme. This is the enzyme beta lactamase. So it is inhibiting. So if the beta lactamase enzyme is inhibiting, then it is no longer producing the component that makes the antibodies or antimicrobes ineffective. So it means that it is going to be good when it comes to antibiotic rescue and when it comes to pneumonia treatment. Here the treatment was done, or this basic operation was done with meropenem vaccine or drug, you can call it. It is to treat infections by this particular superbug. Okay, so now in this, by inactivating beta lactamase, we have achieved some sort of improvement when it comes to antimicrobial resistance or antibiotic resistance. Now here we also need to understand what exactly is AMR or antimicrobial resistance. So it occurs when bacteria, virus, fungi, and parasites no longer respond to antimicrobial medicines, right? So when they do not respond, so again, it is not just limited to bacteria, but it is also applicable to viruses, fungi, and parasites, okay? Now, what is the impact of this? Why it is relevant? It is relevant because the drugs, when it becomes effective, then this disease starts spreading more effectively, and it also lead to higher death counts. In fact, as per a report by World Bank, it has mentioned that more than $1 trillion extra healthcare has been added because of AMR or antimicrobial resistance. Now, what are the causes? There are 3-4 major causes. So first cause is with respect to the industrial waste, particularly from API production or active pharmaceutical ingredient production. So these production, they have active component, they have active enzyme. So when they're not treated in a very careful manner, then it leads to formation or development of beta lactamase, which further leads to antimicrobial resistance. Secondly, it also is filled by, because of landfill leachate, which is basically a liquid, or the sewage treatment plants, whatever it is, that the liquid, that component of the landfill, it also creates the core component that causes AMR. Thirdly, it is formed because of untreated wastewater and sewage effluent. So again, if you can see, the common cause here is lack of proper treatment of biomedical waste. So here you can see that biomedical waste, when not treated properly, they lead to increase of AMR. Very important point to note, right? So what are the key initiative? The key initiative here which has taken place is, first of all, there is One Health approach. Again, a very important component. So One Health approach essentially means that human health is very much linked with that of animal health plus environmental impacts. So human health is not just impacted by the things which humans are directly impacted, but they are also impacted by those issues where animals are impacted. So we need to treat health in a singular way, in a very uniform way. And therefore, we need to treat health not just from the perspective of treating the human health, but also by incorporating issues which animals face, which plants face, where environment. So everything has to be combined together. Then there is WHO Global Action Plan on AMR, which basically means that we need to increase the awareness level. We need to strengthen capabilities. We need to promote research. So again, these are some of the key element of the WHO Global Action Plan on AMR. Now here, UPSC had also asked a question on multi-drug resistance, and take a look at it and tell me what is the right answer with reason as well. The next topic is about rise in Asiatic lion population. And this topic is part of your environmental conservation, as it is very obvious. So what are we supposed to study from here, from prelims perspective and from mains perspective? So first of all, we need to know that it's a very successful initiative that we have taken place, which is a successful status of Project Lion that was initiated in the year 2020, right? And I think it was launched on 15th August, right? 15th August of 2020. And we celebrate the World Lion Day on 10th August or 9th August, I'm not sure. So 10th or 9th August of 2020. So this is the World Lions Day to celebrate and to ensure that we understand its importance in the ecosystem. So if you look at the population growth, you see that there is a 70% rise from 284 to 891. It's a phenomenal jump in the size of population. So this basically indicates the success of Project Lion. So we also need to understand some of the key facts related to lion. So what are the habitat of lion? It is a dry deciduous forest and scrublands. So if you look at the ecosystem in which the lions thrive, it essentially is about grasslands. We know that there are African lions as well, and African lions also survive in the savanna region, which is nothing but this grassland region. In India, they are mostly found in the Gir National Park and the Wildlife Sanctuary of Gujarat, right? And if you look at the status, so they have the status of vulnerable status of IUCN under the schedule under WTPA or Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. They come under Schedule 1, which means that they have the highest protection stage or among the highest protection stage. As part of CITES, which prohibits trade of endangered species, it is under Appendix 1, right? So if you look at some of the key animal traits, what exactly it does, it is smaller than the African lions, right? And secondly, there is no fixed breeding season, so they can breed continuously or throughout the year, right? So they do not have a specific breeding season. Also, in the past, UPSC had also asked about some of the other traits, such as they mark their territory, right? So they are very territorial in nature. So they mark their territory through their through excreta or through urine, right? So they are territorial animals as well, and they also roar a lot. They have a specific roar. Then what are the conservation efforts for the Asiatic lions? The first one that we know of, and this is the most important one, is Project Lion of 2020. And here, the impact or the emphasis is on impacting or developing multiple strands. The first one here is to improve the habitat. So we know that they thrive in dry deciduous regions. So we are going to improve the habitat so that they can thrive it in that location. Secondly, there will be monitoring, and it will be tech enabled, including radio collars, camera trap, and there will be conflict mitigation, especially the human animal conflict. Okay. Then there is a concept of greater Gir concept, which essentially means that we want to expand the range not just to Gir but to also other location. And this is something that is followed across the various conservation entities wherever there is one single entity in all that particular region. And the idea is that if God forbid something happens, right, to that particular wildlife location, then there are other location where the species is present. So it basically wants to not put all its eggs in one single basket, right? So the range is to be expanded to Girnar, Pania, and Mitiala. Okay. Then there are certain international initiatives such as International Big Cat Alliance, which is to push for global conservation of big cats. And there is species recovery program under integrated development of wildlife habitat scheme. Now, this Barda Wildlife Sanctuary was also in news recently because the Lion Day was celebrated in this place. So we need to know something about this wildlife sanctuary also. Especially, we need to know that it is located in Gujarat, in Porbandar and Devbhoomi Dwarka districts of Gujarat. Secondly, the significance is that even though it has a very small forest area, in terms of biodiversity, it is extremely important. In fact, it is considered to be a biodiversity hotspot. It is emerging as a second home for Asiatic lions apart from Gir, and it is declared a sanctuary in 1979, Sanctuary Wildlife Sanctuary. And the key flora are Gurad, Babul, Dhav, Ryan, Bear, Jamun, Amli, and all these bamboo, etc. And then key fauna are Sambar, Chital, Chinkara, etc. Right? Next, let's move to the next topic, which is economic sanctions as a tool of US hegemony. This topic will be or can be considered as part of GS paper 2, significant effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest, and also on international organizations such as ineffectiveness of WTO. We can also in fact link this to ethics, morality of sanctions, etc. So here we know that India has been subjected to 50% tariff now by US, 25% on the general tariff, and 25% as part of its ongoing trade with Russia, right? So India has been subjected to several tariffs. So the question is why this is used, why sanctions are used, what are the efficacy of sanctions, and to what extent it can be considered as effective, right? So here there was a report published by Urijit Patel, who used to be the chairperson or governor of RBI. So he has published a report called Asphyxiation by Sanction, Harm, Fear, and Smog. And the author has analyzed the process of sanctions in detail, understanding why it is being done and what could be some of the implications of that, right? So here, as part of this, Mr. Patel has highlighted that economic sanction essentially is not a new tool, first of all. In fact, many of the US presidents have been conducting or been using economic sanctions as part of the diplomatic tool or part of economic coercion since long, and it has further been strengthened under the Trump administration. So that is the first argument that Mr. Patel makes. Then there are certain other highlights that in various countries, oil export sanctions has been done, such as Venezuela, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Sudan, Syria have been targeted. And sanctions are basically used as a part of economic warfare. In fact, if you look at one of the very famous scholar once said that war is nothing but politics by other means. So here, Mr. Patel says that economic sanctions is also a part of war, but through non-violent manner, right? So basically, we can say that sanctions are nothing but like a siege, right? So he has equated sanctions like a siege where the economic prospects of the country comes into heavy problems, right? So here trade, shipping, banking, payment curbs are used as alternatives to war. So one of the reasons why countries go to war is to occupy the markets of a country, to occupy the natural or the raw materials that are produced by the countries, and mostly also to ensure that the country remains uh, non-hostile to its interest. So many of its objectives can be done without going to war and by using sanctions. So first of all, sanctions essentially means that, and it can be of various types. So sanctions are essentially, it means that the country will, there will be various types of sanction. First, it will be non-participation in trade or any activities, right? So India also underwent economic sanctions when it conducted its nuclear test in the late 1990s, right? So US imposed heavy sanctions on India. So as a component of heavy sanctions, first is that there will be no trade with that country under whom or which is given sanctions. The second one is there will be trade, but with heavy tariffs. Tariffs as high that will make trade process unsustainable in nature. For example, if India's goods are 50% higher than what than they are presently, then it will disincentivize, or that it will discourage the American consumers from undertaking or buying Indian products. They will perhaps buy products from other countries like Venezuela or from any other countries which are considered to be India's rivals. So tariffs essentially threaten the economic might of a country, right? So this is one of the areas. So again, also sanctions can be either primary sanctions or it can be secondary sanctions. So primary sanctions would mean that US would say to its citizens that, look, you're not going to have trade with this particular country. So not any individual or a company of US will be engaged in economic activities with that of the country on which sanction is imposed. Now, secondary sanctions will not be applicable to the resident of US, but to the other countries which are uh, trading with with the second country. So here, secondary sanctions, for example, if a primary sanction is imposed on country A, then US citizens will not be trading with those countries. But any other country, if country B goes on and has trade with A, then the secondary sanctions will be imposed on country B, even though country B as such has not done anything to deserve that sanction, not that A would deserve anything. So the second thing that the second observation that Mr. Patel makes as part of this is that it has also seen limited success. So efficacy of this is very limited. In fact, only 20% of these sanctions have met its objective in the last 25 years. So since 2000, more than 650 or 687 sanctions have been imposed, out of which less than 20% have fully met the objectives. The third point is regarding secondary sanctions, which are nothing but extraterritorial, blocking third party trade with sanctioned nation. Now here, in terms of secondary sanctions, the Iran, in context of India, Iran Chabar port has been hit because of the secondary sanction, because primary sanctions were imposed on Iran, and India wanted to develop Chabahar port that would give it access to Afghanistan and then to the Central Asian republics. But because of the sanctions, it got hit, it could not materialize, and even now it is progressing very slowly. Secondly, the Russian oil investment, which India wanted to conduct, in fact, more than $900 million worth of project is currently stuck because of the sanctions imposed on Russia. So here, this article also talks about some of the reasons why US sanctions are very effective. In fact, no other country today has the capacity or capability to impose sanctions on any country and make it work. And this is particularly why it is called hegemony. So we call US hegemony because of the combination of hard and soft power that US enjoys. So hard power essentially is coercive power. It can be military power or it can be economic power. And soft power essentially is your ideological power or your cultural capital, right? So US has a combination of hard and soft power. In terms of hard power, we have economic powers, and within this, you can see that US has the first thing that it realizes, or it is very much strong, is because of its reliance on dollar. The entire global economy, it works as works uses dollar as the reserve currency and medium of exchange. And because of the predominant role of dollar, anytime US sanctions any country, then their medium of exchange is deteriorated, and therefore it becomes very effective. So because of dollar dominance, US effectively gets away with sanctioning any country, whether primary sanctions or secondary sanctions. The second thing is because of financial control. America's central position in international banking system, including use of SWIFT, right? And also because many of the multinational companies are basically uh, based in United States, and they subscribe to their municipal laws or their central laws. Third, in terms of payment networks, using the dollar corresponding banking system as a switch to control global transactions. So they also control global transaction. I think this is the reason why we need to India should incorporate, or India should go for de-dollarization first by using rupee as a reserve currency. Secondly, India should also go with expanding the UPI network that would allow it to bypass the US-led payment networks. So you also tell me what other measures can be done to de-risk the current predicament that India is currently facing because of the sanctions imposed by US, sorry. Next, we'll discuss some of the quick updates. The first news here is with regard to a scheme which is called Merit Scheme. And it's a very interesting scheme. So first of all, what exactly it stands for? It is multidisciplinary education and research improvement in technical education scheme, right? So it is merit scheme. So this is the reason why it was in news is because the Union Cabinet has approved budgetary support for this. So we need to know what exactly is the primary objective of this. So the primary objective is that it wants to improve the quality, the equity and governance in technical educational institutes, okay, along with the line of NEP 2020. So the crux here is that higher education in India is very significant for taking India to a developed state, right? And for that, we need to improve the quality of education at all the levels. So what exactly would come across or can be considered as part of quality? So first thing is that we need to improve the curriculum. Curriculum means what is to be taught, right? So we need to incorporate multidisciplinary orientation in our studies, especially when it comes to technical. So it has to be updated. Then it has to be backed with pedagogy, which means how it is to be done. So curriculum basically hits the what part, what is to be taught. Pedagogy is about how it is to be studied. Then the third part is with respect to assessment. So once you have studied the prescribed thing, you have done your research, then how do I know to what extent you have understood something? So for that purpose, assessment is very important, and therefore the scheme also emphasizes on assessment as well. And now assessment needs to incorporate the fact that it is not important to get students to just understand, just remember the facts, but to apply these facts, especially in the light of artificial intelligence, especially in the light of chat GPT. So assessment needs to be improved as well. Then there is also need for teacher training. because without teacher training you cannot implement all these measures. So these measures will definitely help in improving the quality of education. But apart from that, we also want to make sure that it is equity. It means that it is inclusive in nature, right? So it does not just become very exclusionary in nature, and for that we need to increase the gross enrollment rate, especially of the weaker section, especially women. So we have various reservation schemes. We have various schemes like Kiran, AI Kiran, that seeks to improve the inclusion of women in technical education, especially the STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, medicine, right? So in all these technical domains, women's participation is also increased. In fact, as per NEP, that is the National Education Policy, we want to increase the gross enrollment rate percentage by 50%. Currently, it is close to 30% or 28% by 2035. So these are some of the data that you should remember. Then thirdly, when it comes to the governance part, here what we need to do is we need to create future ready administrators. So we don't want those administrators who are stuck in their ways, who are just following the instructions, but we want administrators who understand the broader objectives of the national education policy, who understand what are the external challenges, who understand how to cope up with these challenges and make these education in such a way that it is solution oriented, right? So we need to work on these formats. Now once you have understood the objective, these rest of them are details related to your prelims. So first is, it is a central sector scheme, not a centrally sponsored scheme, which means that the financing part is to be done by the center, right? And then the nodal ministry which is going to implement is Ministry of Education. Objective we have discussed. Budget is rupees 4,200 crore for a period from this to 2025-26 to 29-30, which is basically roughly around 5 years. And it also includes external assistance. So it is not just it includes assistance from the government of India, but it also includes external assistance of rupees 2,100 crore from World Bank. And now it is given as a loan, not a grant. Then who are the beneficiaries? 275 technical institutions, including NITs, right? NITs, regional engineering colleges, and polytechnics are part of this. In fact, IITs and IIMs will be serving as mentors in this initiative. And what is the significance? Definitely, it is going to increase India's skills, employability of students, and research, etc. Okay. Next is about special development package, which has been released for two states, Assam and Tripura, right? So Union Cabinet has approved 4 new components under the SDPs for Assam and Tripura. What is important here is that you know the names of the state, which is Assam and Tripura. Secondly, what is it focusing on? On Adivasi, which is tribals. Dimsa is basically a tribal group in Assam. Alpha Yulfa areas in Assam, which is basically insurgency infected areas, and the tribal communities in Tripura. Now, this is again a central sector scheme, not a centrally sponsored scheme, centrally sector scheme. And what is the purpose? There are threefold purposes. First is that you improve the socio-economic conditions of the vulnerable and marginalized groups such as Adivasis, right? Secondly, it wants to boost job, healthcare, education skills, and livelihood of youth and women. See, youth are a very critical component of any society, and if you do not channelize them in the right manner, they may lead to or they can take part in various insurgency movement, or they can be an agent of destruction as well. So you want to make sure that they are incorporated in the developmental role as early as possible by providing them with jobs, education, skills, etc. And also you want to integrate the marginalized section as well. Thirdly, to attract more tourists and creating additional employment. So these are the objective of the special development package for Assam and Tripura. Next, PM Electric Drive Revolution in Innovative Vehicle Enhancement, which is basically PM E-Drive scheme. And it is being launched by Ministry of Heavy Industries. It has extended the tenure of the particular scheme from by 2 years, from 31 March 2026 to 31 March 2028. So first of all, we need to understand what exactly is the purpose here. The purpose here is to accelerate the EV adoption. So a lot of people are still hesitant in adopting EV vehicles or electric vehicles because of various reasons, right? Because they may not think that there is proper charging station, or they may be concerned about the mileage, or maybe they will be concerned about taking it outside cities. So first of all, it has to be adopted by taking care of all the problems, such as building charging infrastructure and enhancing the AI manufacturing ecosystem. So if the manufacturing system is going well, then it will definitely decrease the cost burden of charging infrastructure. Then it is a central sector scheme. Again, this is also a centrally sector scheme. The target is to incentivize E2 vehicles, 3 vehicles such as autos, e-ambulances, e-trucks, and e-buses. And what are the components of this scheme? It creates sort of demand incentive for EVs like e2 wheelers or 3 wheelers, ambulances. So first it creates demand incentive. Second, it also creates grants, or it provides grants for capital assets, funding for e-buses, because it is capital intensive, establishment of charging infrastructure, and modernization of MHI testing agency. Then it also provides not just the capital grants in terms of funding, but it also provides administrative support through information, education, and communication campaigns in terms of why should one take EV vehicles or electric vehicles, what are some of the pros, cons, right? Why should you adopt it? All these things. And fees for project management agency. So this is about the PM E-Drive scheme. Third, next we have the Cancer AI and Technology Challenge, which is called Catch Grant Program. And this is done by India AI Mission. It has announced the Cancer AI and Technology Challenge, which is also called Catch. And India AI Mission is a flagship mission of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. And what exactly is the purpose of Catch program, Catch Grant Program? It is to fast track the validation and deployment of AI solutions across cancer care continuum in India. So we know that AI is currently touching across all the walks of our lives today, and it can also be very helpful in medical diagnosis and research and development. And for that purpose, if we have sufficient data related to cancer treatment and understanding the patterns in which these cells modify and how they operate under various circumstances, there is a possibility that we may end up developing a cure for cancer as well. And this project basically is working along that vision. And for that, it is collaborating or with various. It is launching as a joint innovation grant program in partnership with National Cancer Grid. Right, the support, because it's a grant program. So what it will do is it will provide so people will provide solutions or suggestions to scale, and then the selected proposal will receive some funding based on milestone, means that in terms of completion of certain targets, up to rupees 50 lakh, which is a substantial amount, mentorship support, access to clinical validation sites, and the opportunity to scale across the NCG, which is National Cancer Grid network, and India AI supported public channels. So from the prelims perspective, what is important is you understand what exactly is Catch Grant Mission Program. It is essentially related to deployment of AI solution for cancer care, right? So this is what you should be aware of, and you should understand which is the implementing body, that is National Cancer Grid, or it is India AI Mission, which is basically spearheading it in collaboration with NCG, right? So this is what is important from exam perspective. Next is Animal Stem Cell Biobank. It was India's first state-of-the-art animal stem cell biobank and laboratory, inaugurated at National Institute of Animal Biotechnology, which is located in Hyderabad. So first of all, what exactly are stem cells? Stem cells are nothing but non-specialized cells which means that they are not yet specialized to do a particular function. So they can be changed into any sort of other function as per requirement, and they have the property of self renewal and potency, right? So that are stem cells. Now, what exactly animal stem cells are required? So the features are that it provides stem cell culture unit, 3D bioprinter, bacterial culture hub, cryo storage. And the significance is that it focuses on regenerative medicine, cellular therapies for livestock, advanced research in disease modeling, tissue engineering, etc. And it is supported by, very importantly, National Biopharma Mission. So NBM is a key flagship program of DBT, that is Department of Biotechnology, right? So we need to understand this as well. So NBM, which is National Biopharma Mission, was launched or approved in 2017 as Industry Academia Collaboration Mission for accelerating biopharmaceutical development. See, here why it is important is because of the importance of improving the farmer income. So one of the reason why farming in India is suffering because of the predominance of the cereal based system in India. So therefore we want to ensure that farming is integrated in nature. That is why there is a thrust on integrated farm system. And one of the component of integrated farm system is the usage of animals. But the problem is in India we have several diseases and a lot of suboptimal usage of animal, and this will be very helpful in creating what is called as evergreen revolution. And it will also have tremendous impact on the nutritional security, not just food security but nutritional security, because it will lead to better uh, uh, products such as milk, meat, etc. Okay, and it will also have a huge impetus on exports as well, because we are exporting a lot of animal based products outside as well, right? Next is about greater one horned rhino. So, a recent report by IUCN and Traffic has commended or appreciated India's improved monitoring and surveillance, which has sharply reduced greater one horned rhino poaching. So, just like Project Lion has substantially increased the number of tiger, we have also, because of the improved monitoring and surveillance, the poaching or the killing or hunting of one horned rhino has substantially reduced. And because of that, IUCN and Traffic has commended India on that. Now, what exactly is Traffic? Traffic is a leading international NGO, non governmental organization working globally on trade in wild animals and plants in context of both biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. So, what it means in plain English is that they seek to curb the poaching of the wild animals, right? So, this is the organization which provides guidelines and it supports the non trading of such animals in the wild. And it is jointly run by World Wildlife Fund and IUCN. Now, what exactly do we need to know about the greater rhino, the greater one horned rhino, especially from the context of the prelims? First, we need to know that it has a single horn, as you can see it here, and it has thick armor like skin. So if you look at the skin, it appears as if it is wearing an armor, right? And the diet, as you can see, it basically survives on grass, leaves, fruits, aquatic plants. So majorly it is a vegetarian species. Size is, it is largest among the five rhino species, the one horned rhino. Range, it is found in India and Nepal. Habitat, as you can see, forest, grassland, inland, wetlands. And what are the threats? Threat, basically it is loss of genetic diversity and habitat loss and degeneration. What is the protection status? As far as IUCN is concerned, it is vulnerable just like lion. So again, try to remember it from interlinking with several other species, right? CITES Appendix 1, and same just like lion, it also enjoys Schedule 1 status of WPA 1972. So some of the key Indian initiative is National Conservation Strategy for Indian One-Horned Rhinoceros 2019, and the recent one is Indian Rhino Vision IRV of 2020. So these are some of the facts that you need to know for prelims. Then the next is our program is Science, Health, Innovation for Next Gen Explorers, or SHINE program. SHINE program is launched by ICMR, which is Indian Council for Medical Research, and Department of Health Research. What is the objective? The objective is to introduce students to health problems or health and biomedical research. The problem is that most of the students who are undertaking science as an area of research, they are majorly concerned, or they understand about space, they understand about, say, artificial intelligence or any other matters. But as far as health research is concerned, there is not that much interest or engagement from the young generation. And this initiative, the SHINE program, is essentially an awareness campaign to help students know what exactly is there as part of research, especially in the health. So here it is to create young leaders and push them towards science and public health careers. So what exactly are the activities conducted within the SHINE program? It includes guided laboratory tours, research exhibitions, and poster walks. So as per the recent initiative, we saw the participation of more than 13,000 students of grades 9 to 12 in the program. When it comes to significance, it can help in igniting scientific curiosity, it can foster innovation, and inspire the next generation of health researchers. So, this can also be considered as one of the ways to improve the quality of health education or the technical education in India by promoting the importance of health education and research, right? Next part is Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, PMUY, and it is a very important scheme, and it was also recently approved by Union Cabinet for a continuation um, for up to 9 refills annually for the consumers for 2025-26. Right, the subsidy is targeted in the sense that it is for 3 rupees 300 per 14.2 kg of LPG cylinder for up to 9 refills annually. So you can get 9 refills annually. So in terms of the objectives, it is very essential that we consider it not just as a way of so it has multiple objectives. First is that it sort of controls indoor pollution, because most of the times we are concerned with the outdoor pollution in terms of PM 2.5, PM 10, right? All those things. But the thing is that even indoor within our house, it is also a source of indoor pollution. And unfortunately, it is the women who are at the receiving end of all such indoor pollution. And for that purpose, it is also leading to women empowerment. Because if you look at the beneficiaries are essentially the adult women of from poor households. So it is targeted in a sense that those women who cannot afford to get LPG cylinders, they are getting the access to LPG subsidies for certain rupees, right? So it also leads to women empowerment. So by now they will be saved from the drudgery of collecting various of fuel for their cooking purposes. It will also lead to curbing of greenhouse gas emissions. Right, so these were some of the objectives with which it was launched in 2016, and the ministry responsible for its execution was Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Right, the basic objective was to make clean cooking fuel like LPG available to the rural and deprived households. Then on later on, it also increased, and in fact, it was one of the major objective or one of the major reason why the incumbent government could gather the votes of women, because it was very effectively delivered, right? Then the target is to release 8 crore LPG connections to rural poor by March 2020, which we have already achieved. And then as of this date, 1/7/2025, there are about 10.33 crore PMUY connections across the country. So this signifies a major improvement in the way we provide subsidies to our poor and vulnerable section, and also it is a step in the right direction as far as environment pollution is concerned. Next, Nasha Mukt Bharat Abhiyan, NMBA. Now, why it was in news? Because the 5th anniversary of launch of NMBA is being celebrated. And so here again, we need to understand the most important thing, which is the objective here. So what is the objective? Objective was to prevent, treat, and rehabilitate people affected by substance abuse, right? So here it is not just limited to treating people who have been affected by substance abuse, but it also includes prevention through communication, through awareness, and through rehabilitation. Those who have already been affected, it will be helping them to rehabilitate and to start living a natural and a normal life. The coverage was initially targeting a very specific areas, 272 high risk district. Now it covers all the districts, right? Then it has, very importantly, it has a 3-pronged strategy which covers everything or all the supply chain things. So first, in terms of supply control, it is led by the Narcotics Control Bureau. So it will ensure that the supply of the substance or drugs are reduced by ensuring that there is proper coordination with the law enforcement agencies and ensuring that the supply does not reach the consumer. The second thing was to reduce the demand itself by creating awareness. And this is where NBA or the NMBA comes into picture, which is Nasha Mukt Bharat Abhiyan comes into picture, because it is increasing awareness about the ill effects of the drugs. Third important step is in terms of treatment and rehabilitation. So now this is something which is done by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So if you look at it, this is an excellent example of interministerial cooperation where different experts are working in different domains, and ultimately their objective is to reduce and eliminate usage of drugs. So here, as per the implementation, it was done at the local level through district Nasha Mukt communities, which are headed by the district collectors or district magistrate. They prepare and run local action plans. So depending on different requirements of your region, it is done in a regional or decentralized manner. So this is the objective, this is the strategy and the implementation. Then when it comes to the nodal ministry, it is run by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. It was launched in 2020 as a key initiative under the National Action Plan for Drug Demand Reduction. And if you want to link it with the Constitution, it is also mentioned as part of Article 47 of the Constitution, which is a part of DPSP, and it states that the state should curb the consumption of intoxicating substances that are injurious to health. So very important article again. Now we are done with the news today for 9th, 10th and 11th of August. Make sure that you go through them very effectively, and in case you find it difficult to complete it, make sure that you're reading in a thematic manner. Try to always link it with the syllabus and make sure that you're aware of the questions that have come in the past. Again, focus on understanding, and then once you have understood the particular concept, then you can interlink it with the rest of the subjects. With that, I wish you all the best. Thank you and see you again.